Hi, and welcome to Pack Expo. I'm here with David Walsh from SNAC, who just gave a talk on the latest trends that are occurring in the snacking industry. And one of our colleagues spoke to you recently after one of these, and I'm curious if you've seen changes in any or one or two trends that have developed in the last just year or two since the last time we talked to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what we're seeing now as we move away from the COVID pandemic, as consumers are coming back out into the world and they're much more on the go. So because of that, they're looking for snacks that are giving them kind of more functional benefits. So things like gut health and immune health and brain health and very specific like ingredients that can kind of speak to some of those benefits. So for example, something I mentioned on the presentation was like cassava flour for digestive health, or ashwagandha for brain health and things like that. There was a bar that I saw recently with some nuts for for especially geared towards cyclists that can help with muscle soreness. So these very specific kind of added health benefits as consumers are kind of going back out into the world post-pandemic, when during COVID it was a little bit more about comfort food and kind of entertainment as they're kind of stuck at home. So it's been very interesting to watch.
So another thing that you mentioned, which kind of ties into the coming out of COVID, was the growth of snacks through e-commerce. Now, when you're talking e-commerce, is it strictly something like a getting from an Amazon, getting from a Walmart, getting from something like that? Or does that include like the Instacarts and the DoorDash and all of those different options?
Yeah, it also includes, like you're talking about, click and collect. So you order, your groceries from a store and just pick it up. That's included in kind of the broad e-commerce universe. But it also includes what we call direct to consumer, and which has really kind of lowered the barrier for entry for a lot of kind of startup and innovative entrepreneurial companies, where they can just start a business and ship their products directly to the consumer. They don't necessarily have to compete for shelf space with some of the bigger players in traditional retail formats.
Now that's interesting when you talk about the direct-to-consumer and not having to compete. With all these different snack brands that are growing, and you've listed a bunch of different huge growth for like meat snacks and things like that, is most of that and that innovation of the different types of snacks coming from the usual suspects, the big people, or are you seeing a lot of, we had the emerging brand summit earlier this week. Are you seeing it from newer companies, emerging type brands that are going the direct-to-consumer or the e-commerce route?
Yeah, good question. It's definitely a good mix of both, and definitely when we look at kind of like the innovation and some of the new products, it's really, I think, being driven and started out by some of the smaller startup companies, which is really interesting to watch. But the bigger companies are getting in on it as well through things like acquisition and their food incubations and working with some of those smaller companies to help them grow and scale up, and in the future possibly acquiring those companies. So they're really getting in on some of the innovation too. But I would say probably started out with and being driven initially by predominantly a lot of the startups in the category, which has been really interesting to watch as well.
Very cool. Thank you so much, David, for taking a little bit extra time to talk to us here at Pack Expo International 2022.